Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. I asked Thomas to come and help us out here, folks. I am seeing a lot of propaganda in the independent and alternative media space about CrowdStrike, and there's so much of it, and there's so many contributors. I'm not going to name or single out any one of them, but I'd like Thomas to really give us an overview of what's going on with CrowdStrike and why these propagandists are trying to have us look a different way.
Well, Betsy, you know that I don't watch other channels much, only if they come up on the Cat Report. And when I do, the problem is I get rather upset. It's kind of like watching CNN. I don't last 10 seconds before I am completely out of my mind saying that is such a false statement. The premise is so false. The foundation is false. Where it's headed is false. Everything is so false. This is a lie inside of a lie inside of a lie inside of a lie. So I'm listening to some alternative news people, and their speculations simply lead in the wrong direction. Let's stick with facts, folks, okay? And don't exaggerate. And also give us where you found the information so that people can check it out, instead of just running together a stream of consciousness that has nothing to do with reality. For instance, if I'm going to talk to you about CrowdStrike, I'm going to tell you about some things that we saw in the news and other things you can go and search right now and find. For instance, one of the two different people I was listening to this morning, just this morning, was going on and on and on about they should interview Dmitry Alperovitch because Trump mentioned his name over and over again in a speech. Well, he mentioned his name because he's connected to Ukraine. And then this person extrapolates because Trump mentioned the DNC or the server. Is the server in Ukraine?
I don't remember Trump mentioning Dmitry Alperovitch.
He did
I know
not.
He tweeted about CrowdStrike.
Correct.
Which the media is avoiding like the plague.
Correct. And so this person completely gets off base, has everything wrong, but it sounds so convincing that I was completely mesmerized. But the point is it wasn't correct whatsoever. So let's break it down. CrowdStrike was Obama's only counterintelligence cyber warfare private group that he used for both government, military, and even for private interests in corporations when he demanded that CrowdStrike represent Sony and others in all kinds of attacks that they were having, supposed cyber attacks. Well, let's just be very clear about this. CrowdStrike got caught up in Ukraine for using the same lies they did about the DNC server. That it was Russian GRU agents who left footprints, Cozy Bear and Fuzzy Bear, supposedly proof that the Russian GRU, top secret, NSA Russians, left footprints when they went into the DNC and hacked it. Wrong. They wouldn't have left footprints. It wasn't hacked. It was a leak. What happened in Ukraine with the artillery scam? People died over that because Dmitry Alperovitch misrepresented information and said that it was, in fact, Russian hacking of a system that they were using for their artillery coordination. And so he got people killed. All right, let's think this through. What's going on in Ukraine? There's no server there. Now, there is a server there that was receiving everything that Imran Awan stole from the DNC server, from the DCCC 80 participants, both Senate and House. That's the Democratic caucus, which Nancy Pelosi, ordered them all to come underneath the control of an IT person, Imran Awan, and his three relatives, and his cousin in the basement, who had an off-site server that was replicating the on-site server in Representative Becerra's office. We know this because all of the whistleblowers came out again and again and again. The IT people who work on Capitol Hill came out and told everyone this. They told everyone. They didn't just tell one news agency. They told everyone. And then there was a big investigation. And at the last minute, after Imran Awan was investigated, he was completely exonerated of all the crimes that he was accused of, and they accused him of all these crimes I'm mentioning, completely exonerated. And he didn't even, I don't even think he paid a fine. And no one who even knows where Imran Awan is, and are the servers still active? That is the president's question. It isn't, did this DNC server get taken to Ukraine because of CrowdStrike and Dmitry Alperovich being, some are saying, a Ukrainian? No, he's not. He's a Russian.
And that's what one of the independent media propagandists is claiming.
Michael Alperovich was a Russian, supposedly atomic scientist who was turned to our side and came and worked for America and brought his son with him. We know their history. We know where they went to school, so on and so forth. Now, we know that Michael Alperovich lied about the school that he went to in Russia, but he is Russian. And so this whole thing of, oh, they're Russian, they're Ukrainian. It's okay if they're Ukrainian, but it's bad if they're Russian. All Ukrainians are Russian. I mean, let's just break this down. And what's going on in Ukraine is nothing more than what happened in Russia with the mafia oligarchs getting their control, with America and American politicians and bankers getting their piece of the pie. We now see that it's John Kerry. We see that it's Hillary Clinton. We see that it's Mitt Romney. We see that it's just about any of the top people. Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. Senate, House, doesn't matter. They were all sloshing in the Ukrainian oligarchs' money as they were trying to take state-operated gas and natural gas, petroleum, and all kinds of different energy interests, and basically let American politicians this time, instead of just the American banks, get their piece of the pie. Why? Because Biden, that's beautiful. What a slip of the tongue. Because Obama and Biden basically said with Hillary, Ukraine is up for grabs. Everybody can take what they want. Because, of course, Hillary already had Russia, already had China and her foundations, and already had all this stuff. And so Biden got in, and we saw what the mess. But let's remember, Dmitry Alperovich is a complete fraud. He worked in what's called the Total Information Awareness Group of the CIA, became rogue CIA, became part of McAfee, then lied about all of these Russians and Chinese because he found Russian and Chinese footprints all over everything in America. Corporate, military, didn't matter. And he became a hero in McAfee. And so that was after he was prosecuted for being the number one Russian cyber scammer in America. Arrested, convicted, and became an agent of the FBI. Oh, that's right. And then the FBI, Sean Henry, top person for their counterintelligence and for cyber warfare, joins with Dmitry Alperovich to create CrowdStrike. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. When Dmitry Alperovich, and he was interviewed 3 times on the news, so the people who say they want to hear him interviewed, he's already been interviewed. He foamed at the mouth saying he hated Putin. He lied about his report. He said it in his interviews. He said that he was biased, that of course it wasn't Putin, but that he hates Putin because of what Putin did to his father. And yet you're going to call him a Ukrainian, some of these people. No, he's a Russian. And then he basically said that there was really no evidence except for these footprints that were left there. But what he did admit, and what everybody admits, is he went in and put on his proprietary system called Falcon. Falcon did not stop any more incursions into the DNC because there were multiple incursions after that. Did not stop any incursions with the DCCC, the 80 members of Congress who are all controlled in passwords, in their BlackBerries, in their iPads, in their computers, all went through one server in Becerra's office. And when Trump first said, "Where's the server?" he was referring to Becerra's server because it had been in the news that Imran Awan was being tried, and they had this server which had everything on it, as well as a laptop, of course, registered to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, which was turned over in a slick fashion by a lawyer, left in Congress so that when they found it, they could say that, oh, now it can't be used as evidence against him. Let's remember that some people actually found BlackBerries that were connected to him, as well as smashed hard drives that were connected to him, and none of this was ever entered as evidence into anything. He was given complete get-out-of-jail-free card, and we don't even know where he is. And we know that his father's a Pakistani intelligence agent. We know that when he goes to Pakistan, he's treated like a king and he's treated like he's very, very wealthy. Why would that be? Because he was sending all the information from the Republicans and the Democrats in the House and the Senate, from the entire Democratic National Committee's server, which showed, and what was in that server? Two things. Where the money came from for the Democrats, which we know was completely corrupt because Hillary Clinton stole, all the money from Maine and from all the other states and gave it to only herself, stole it from Bernie, cut Bernie out of the server at one point. Remember that? Bernie couldn't even get to the server.
Couldn't even get to the names of his donors.
That's on the other side of the server. Was all the donors and a specialized program created by Eric Schmidt, a person in India, which we paid for with GSA money by Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State, called the Template for Winning the Election. And we know that this was used. And so on that side, if you basically you were surveilled, targeted, and attacked to not only become a Democrat, but also to donate. And on the other side with the money, that's where the George Soros messages were. Because when George Soros was creating a super PACs and giving more money than anybody even knows, billions of dollars was given to the Hillary campaign. We know that for a fact because he bragged about it. As well as we got to see his super PAC ads and so on and so forth. So all this money was given to Hillary Clinton through that side of the server. And the control of that money was there. And so every name that is over there, and by the way, that's where the first opposition research file on Trump was, which I've read. They couldn't come up with anything. And also all the messages from, well, we saw on Podesta, what we really got to see was on Podesta's emails, as well as Hillary's emails, the messages from George Soros directly telling the DNC how to run their campaign. And basically, they're the 14 points. It's a Saul Alinsky type Marxism. It's controlling it through non-government organizations. It's by controlling the media. So he gave out the whole plan, and they followed it to the T. That's what they don't want you to see, folks. Is that in Ukraine? Heck no. That was, as Betsy says, put in cement, put in a bathtub, made sure it hardened, and then dropped into the middle of the ocean.
Now,
you better believe
why
it.
I asked Thomas to review this, because we took a little walk, and to get outside. Beautiful day today, fall here in Michigan, beautiful. And you could not stop talking about this. You're so upset at these propagandists. And one of the techniques that they use is that they just spew all this word salad at you that is filled with inconsistencies, disinformation, the dots don't connect, but you're sitting here as the receiver trying to make sense of it. So this is why we're here right now doing this.
Yes, and I was going to take out a pad and start writing down all the incongruencies and all of the strange references that I had never heard of to some people I had never heard of, and then some strange associations connected to some names of people that were all part of 100. In one tape, I believe this one person mentioned probably 50, 60 names, most of whom were non-Americans, and didn't really tell you about anything going on here in America, but showed you all kinds of things that are really weird. For instance, there were statements made by a variety of people that I've been listening to that there were secret planes, there were secret guns and drugs, just like the Iran-Contra scandal, being shifted back and forth to Libya, Syria, the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, wake up, folks. Wake up. Hillary Clinton gave out more weapons than any other person in history.
She was an arms dealer.
She was an arms dealer for the Secretary of State. She had $86 billion in money she could give out, and some of those were just discounts on arms deals. 125 nations paid in to her Clinton Foundation so that they could get arms deals.
So she was an arms dealer, and she disguised herself as a Secretary of State.
Benghazi was about sending the Stinger missiles that Gaddafi had bought because he had one of the greatest stores of gold of anybody, and it's all gone now. And those Stinger missiles, of course, Ambassador Stevens was trying to stop the flow of them out of Libya into Syria, which we do know they went there because we got to see the serial numbers in Idlib when we had 3 American forces fighting against each other. They dropped their weapons and they all left. And whose weapons were those? Those were those were from Libya. Those were U.S. weapons given to that were shipped to Libya that were then shipped from Benghazi to Syria, We know this for a fact. This is in the newspaper. So why is there have to be some big reveal, some big conspiracy, some big, oh, only I'm the one who can tell you this? No, simply do a search on it. Dmitry Alperovitch. Let's go back to good old Dmitry. Dmitry is the tech guy for the Atlantic Council. So you will hear these people make certain associations, which we do make, but then we're going to tell you further news or further truths on that so that it can easily be checked. Plus, almost everything we tell you has already been put in an intelligence report, which is footnoted or has the references so you can find them. So it is not just free association. Basically, have a bunch of names in a conspiracy is simply a bunch of dots that are connected, making a picture, which isn't the picture that should be made with those dots. And that's really what is going on here. You don't need planes. If the CIA, and we know this, I'm not even going to go into the details. I'm just going to give you one detail. Silkway Airlines, Azerbaijan. It's an open rogue CIA, guns for money or drugs or human trafficking, whatever you want, out of Silkway Airlines.
Is it still going on?
It's still going on. Everyone knows this. It's been in the newspaper. Everybody, it's been everywhere. Everyone knows this. But this is not mentioned in the diatribe of this conspiracy theories given by so many different supposed alternative news citizen journalists. No. The Vulcans have been continuing through the Azerbaijan Chamber of Commerce, and some of the very people that are mentioned in these gun trading deals are members of the Vulcans. Just look it up. Look up in Aim for Truth. Go to the Anonymous Patriots and look up the Azerbaijan Chamber of Commerce. And when you read about this, you're going to go, well, if this is so clear and it's so simple and it's so true, why are conspiracy theories being made up about this nonsense?
And the way you do that, folks, is you go to that's the number 4, aimfortruth.org. Open up any post, doesn't matter which one. And then you will see on the left side a search bar. And that's where you type in these words. And then the articles that we've written, the citizen intelligence reports will show up. Now, from there, you'll have to decide which one best suits your purpose.
Obama allowed the Chinese to come in and take over every single cybersecurity system in our country while he paid only one company, CrowdStrike, to supposedly keep them out because CrowdStrike supposedly, through McAfee, said, oh, the Chinese have done this and supposedly they kicked them out of all of our systems. No, they did not. There is no system that has not been hacked by the Chinese. And we know that Hillary Clinton had a courtesy message sent from at least 60,000, if not all 780,000 emails from her laptop, which went to Huma, which went to Anthony, which went to, of course, that went through who? That went through Imran Awan, that went through CrowdStrike, and now what these articles are saying, which is true, anyone who has access as a controlling owner of CrowdStrike could have access to top secret secure Falcon information that is at this moment monitoring our entire Senate and Congress. And particularly, which is really lovely, Imran Awan, I believe, went through the Hillary Clinton Senior Executive Service training in New York City at the Google office and literally does not have a top secret security clearance. And the reason I say this is because when you look at the members of the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, Green, and then recommended by Meeks and others, for a year and a half, they lobbied to get Imran Awan access to the House SCIF. That's the highest security clearance you can have. He did get it. So Imran Awan was taking information from the House SCIF, running it through, that's the Secure Compartmental Information, Intelligence Information, or Information Facility. So anyway, that's where you have to go, and you have to be patted down to even go in there. You can't take any notes, so on and so forth. He had that going to Basira's office. He didn't even show up for work, by the way, Imran Awan. And that server sent it to his cousin in a basement who wasn't even being paid. And by the way, Imran was paid more than even the senators are paid, and so were his other 3 relatives, paid more than anybody, $4.5 million for doing this. We know then at that point, of course, Israel got it because of their stingrays in Washington, D.C. We know that because CrowdStrike released it to everyone that the NSA must have known, because the NSA then faked it and tried to replicate it and sent it out to the news so that they could blame it on the Russians by saying it was Guccifer 2.0, complete nonsense. Or that Guccifer 2.0 hacked the DNC, complete nonsense. That Guccifer 2.0 hacked the DCCC, complete nonsense. That's all in the Mueller report.
Now, just a moment, because to catch up some folks, this rogue bureaucratic deep state, is that how Trump tweeted it out?
Yes.
Which is actually the Senior Executive Service, which you have to remember is that you don't have to get a security clearance in order to be a member of this stay-behind army.
I think there should be legislation ending the Senior Executive Service. It was founded, and we even know members of the original founding group. I won't say anything more about that. The Senior Intelligence Service. And it was such a success because they paid these people 3 and 4 times the amount of anybody in the civil service. They had all the top secret security clearances and blah, 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 blah. And then they worked internationally, and they worked with groups like Lockheed Martin or BAE or British Airways or Northrop Grumman or any of these, Dynacore, any of these groups that they worked with. They had complete access to everything. So what they did is they created a rogue intelligence group by hiring this elite group of people back in 1979 or 78, I believe, and they made them higher than even the GS ranks that are available in the civil service. And so we know, and we can see some of these people operative and active now. And what I'm suggesting is take what exists now as an act of Congress, and it is legal, the Senior Executive Service. Don't end it. Just pare it down. It isn't needed anymore. We are already giving out more than half of our top secret security clearances and intelligence, especially in anything cyber-oriented, to private agencies.
I mean, really, the whole world knows America's secrets. The whole world knows that it's the Privy Council and the Pilgrim Society that attempted an overthrow of Donald Trump and continue on. It's just the American people don't know it because our media is part of the opposition. They're the enemy, and they're not telling you. So when you don't hear the word Senior Executive Service coming out of Fox News, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It means that Fox News is part of the enemy plan.
Yeah,
or the
exactly.
enemy camp, I should say. And another one, Ronna McDonald, who is the head of the RNC. Hello, folks. Her middle name's Romney. She's a Romney. How stupid do you have to believe to think that she's not going to choose her Uncle Mitt over Trump? Why is she the head of the RNC? And why hasn't she reported on the election corruption from Mitt and his son Tag and George Soros through that Optech software? And you know I get all riled up about that because old Miss Ronna sits up there and she hasn't said a word. That means that all of our votes, people, when we go to the polls and vote, either on the Smartmatic machines, Hart, InterCivic, Sequoia, and there's a whole bunch of them, Ronna full well knows that our votes are being fractionalized. That's Republican votes and Democrat votes. How do you think Mitt Romney won Utah? We got to call this stuff out. The media will not do it.
I say it's cash out of his old Buick. Okay, here's this billionaire driving around in an old Buick for appearances, going to every single person who was going to be part of counting any of those votes. Isn't that amazing? He personally shook hands with every one of them.
He knew he was a big loser. He had to work it at the front end and the back end. Let me ask you this, Thomas. Is there a software called Optech that fractionalizes your voting and your counting in these election boxes?
Oh, absolutely. Optech is actually owned by the rogue CIA because it was developed by the CIA under Jimmy Carter,
right.
That traitor who now is against Trump. He's a traitor. He was BCCI funded. That is the worst rogue CIA bank in the world, and they funded Jimmy Carter.
Okay.
So he started in Venezuela to get Cesar Chavez elected with Lord Mark Malloch Brown when he was second in charge of the UN. They went there and they did this experiment to see if they could create a software that could manipulate any digital counting of votes. It doesn't matter what the paper votes say. It matters if you have no chain of custody in terms of the digital count. Okay. And that's what's going on. The Optech counts. Now, the machines fractionalize. And we know this. This was proven before. The Sequoia machines as well as the Diebold machines. The Diebold machines in Ohio, it was proven with every single one tested that they were fractionalized. So if I voted for my candidate, I might only get 3/4 of a vote, while the other candidate gets 1/4 of my vote. And so it adds up. And so that's why you have fractional numbers when they report it.
And
you can't have a fraction of a voter.
Okay, and so that's Mitt Romney's. Those are his election machines.
Hart InterCivic are Mitt and Tad's machines, yes?
Tags, okay. Rona. Yes, she does.
She has to know about it.
She has to know about it. Plus, we've had patriots sending her tons of information on it. She cannot deny it.
If she wants to deny that she knows that Bain Capital was part of ripping off Russia through the Balkans, literally through George H.W. Bush, and the first ripping off of the Soviet Union went into the pocket of Bain Capital through Velmet Bank in America, Riggs Bank in America, and Velmet Bank in Russia, where all the money was actually taken out of the country. So she knows that her uncle that's like saying George H.W. Bush didn't know that Prescott Bush supported and helped create Hitler.
Right.
That would be insane. Of course you know what
Now
your
look,
uncle did.
Trump is not going to tweet this stuff out, is he?
He can't, because they would be considered a conspiracy theorist. So when he said server in Ukraine, he knew darn well that what he was talking about, and sorry, this time we do have to read between the lines. We used to do Trump tweet interpretations because he had to cloak what he was saying. He doesn't have to anymore. He's in the election and he can say whatever he wants. So when he said server in Ukraine, he was basically saying, look for Hillary in Ukraine. And that's where you find Alexandra Chalupa. He didn't say Alexandra Chalupa. He didn't say Dmitry Alperovich because Sean Henry likes to act like he owns CrowdStrike. No, it was built on Dmitry Alperovich's father's crypto keys, which is what CrowdStrike uses to get into everything. And those are, in my opinion, those are very, very good Russian crypto keys that Michael Alperovich stole. Anyway, the point is, this is Obama. Obama let Putin take Crimea. There was a pseudo vote, and there was a referendum, as it were, in their fashion. And then there was a vote in the other two provinces in Ukraine, and Obama let them take them. Obama let CrowdStrike, matter of fact, he demanded CrowdStrike go in and help those two provinces as there was artillery fire with Russia, because that was the only war he could get going. Who created that war? Who created that false flag? CrowdStrike. Who was behind the Maidan Revolution? Atlantic Council. Who is the IT guy, head IT guy for Atlantic Council? Dmitry Alperovich. Who is his best friend? Alexandra Chalupa. She's Ukrainian. No, she's actually Russian. But anyway, she works out of Ukraine. She came up with the Paul Manafort nonsense. But you got to realize, right now, even the current president of Ukraine is corrupt. Everyone there is corrupt. Look at Russia. Look at the Soviet Union when it fell. Look after we fleeced Russia. What happened? The oligarchs went in, complete chaos. The only person who had any control were the banks. We now know that, $500 billion was laundered through the gas boards of Ukraine. That's a fact. Everybody knows that. We know that Nancy Pelosi's son got some. We know that Hunter Biden got some. Devin Archer got some. We know that Christopher Hines got some. That means we know that Joe Biden got $900,000 directly to Seneca Rosemont. $900,000. Joe got a payoff. $900,000. Anybody talking about that? No. How about John Kerry's payoff when his son was there? How about the 1.5 Bahari, in China? Oh, they've dropped him now. But the money's in the bank, folks. Joe Biden's running his campaign off of money he stole from Americans by working for basically fascist oligarchs in Ukraine. And these are the same ones that they said that Paul Manafort and Rick Gates worked for. No, Podesta, yes, and Podesta, and both Podesta brothers worked for them. Biden worked for them. Kerry worked for them. Obama worked for them. Susan Rice worked for them. All of them worked for them. They were all getting their piece of the pie. There's not a one of them, if you look closely, not a one of them didn't get paid by Ukraine. And now we're finding out, 12 different Congress people directly threatened Ukraine and then went there and got money and got payoffs and got donations. And we know how many senators did that. And we know that McCain practically lived there. McCain was the Orange Revolution. John McCain was the Maidan Revolution, okay? He was the rogue CIA. He was working with Soros. This is all very well known. Just look it up. John McCain was in Ukraine during the Maidan Revolution. I think he might have even been there when the shooting started. Okay? But the point is, he was there on the ground telling them they were all doing the right thing, and he led them to their slaughter. And now they're controlled by fascists. And I assure you, he got his piece of the pie like he was always good at getting his piece of pie from the Russians, the Saudi Arabians, UAI, and all the other ones. That's just the McCain Institute. That doesn't count as offshore accounts. So what we're talking about here is stop being non-defined. Stop talking conspiracy. All that does is give a black eye to alternative news. It makes us look like we're crazy because crazies are out there with nonsense.
No, that's because they've put people like this into the internet to make us all look crazy like this. When you turn on and you see these people just ranting over and over and over with their word salad, they're there to make a cartoon of the rest of us.
Absolutely. Here's the deal. Is anyone going to ask, and I just want to scream this.
Well, don't. People get very upset when we scream.
Is anyone going to ask who made the rockets that were fired from Syria against Israel? Who made those rockets?
I don't know, but it'll probably track back to the Brits.
Well, the British are in there because those were Russian and Chinese missiles. They kicked the British and the French out of Iran when Trump finally said, we're not going to let you have nuclear weapons and we're not going to let you blow up Israel. We're not going to let you blow up Damascus, because they really want Damascus blown up as much as Jerusalem. So if they drop a bomb and say it was from Israel on Damascus, well, that's, the Mahdi comes, the Messiah comes. I mean, the entire Muslim world looks at Damascus. And what did we do? John Kerry, Obama, Hillary, $150 billion. And now those bombs have gone to Yemen, Sudan, Somalia. They've gone to Lebanon. They've gone to Syria. They've gone to Iraq. And they're all pointed at Israel. Or they're all pointed at America. Or in some cases in Yemen, they're pointed at Saudi Arabia. In other words, Obama gave those weapons. They were the biggest, Obama and Hillary Clinton and John Kerry, the biggest weapons dealers in the world's history.
Okay. While you're on a roll, I wanted to ask you about these blackberries from Mifsud.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, right? This is like, what's up with that?
Okay, I'm ready to slap this one person in the face.
Okay.
Before iPhones, there were Blackberries. It doesn't mean they all had NSA encryption that nobody could break. There's no such thing. And when you think that you are the only one that knows that on every single microchip ever made, there is a mechanical engine on the back, and anyone, a junior high school student, can get through any phone. Any phone. Okay? I mean, I could give you 1,000 examples of this in prison where they take these phones and they do things with them that you can't imagine why, because they use the mechanical engine. Even when the battery's off. It doesn't matter. So, a BlackBerry at that time was all that was available. Now, we also know that later those BlackBerries were turned into iPhones, and that those iPhones all, through Imran Awan and Basira's office, went through a friggin' Apple Dropbox with no security on it. In other words, every single message sent on it was actually more than 80 people, but at least 80 different Congress people, senators, and their aides, their iPhones went to a place where anybody could pay whatever they wanted and they could tap into all of it. But that's nothing. Israel has been spying on D.C. since the time that spying was invented. They now have stingrays. There's not a single inch of D.C. And when you get to the Capitol, there are hundreds of stingrays. All their signals are all penetrating. And there's no such thing as a decrypted...
This sounds like Talpiot.
It is Talpiot. There is no such thing as an encrypted phone. That is just stupid. Now,
well, what was all that stuff in San Bernardino? Was that all just a make-up story to go with their false flag?
That was a lie.
About the phone, and we need Apple to help us get it open. Those...
That was a lie. And what they really did was they closed down all phones during San Bernardino, because that was Jade Helm. And it was an experiment in closing down phones so that they wouldn't report news, so that you could control news in the area where there was a crisis.
Sorry, to distract.
This is standard operating procedure. This has been around for a long, long time. BlackBerries. Okay, let me just point something out. And this person, some of them have raved about, if we could find the people who configured the DNC server, we'd know everything. Brian Pagliano and Justin Cooper. They both refuse to testify, and we do nothing about it. And neither one of them have been asked by the FBI to testify, and they both refuse to let anybody look at their server ever. When CrowdStrike looked at the DNC server, Dmitry Alperovitch did it through a telephone. That's the way we know it's fake. He said this in his interviews. He said he got on his phone, he put in Falcon over the phone. Over the phone, he installed supposedly the most superior antivirus and protection system on the face of the earth over the phone. And then he said, his words, in less than 2 minutes, he knew who had done it, when it had been done, and what it was, and that it was Putin. In less than 2 minutes over the phone, Dmitry Alperovitch said that the DNC had been hacked by Putin for Trump. Okay, folks? Now, you won't hear Dmitry in any interviews now because he's an idiot. He's like talking to Mark of the Zuckerbeast. Complete idiot. Now, but he is a criminal. He's a very good criminal, and he does know how to attack systems. That is his specialty. So what we really had? We had the fact that Israel is always... we know that when Israel was caught 2 times ago, we found that it was our own CIA that had been used by Israel to spy on senators and representatives. Now, what does any of this mean? I'm getting to the point here, folks. You think that I'm like these crazy people. There is a point here.
Well, wait a minute. You asked a question, but all this has got to have a relationship to Five Eyes and the Brits.
Well, that's true, too. And the Brits are all the Five Eyes, as you point out. And the Five Eyes is actually 54... It's Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, America. But Britain is 54 countries. So any of the United Nations could get our most top secret material. And we know that this happened, and that's the reason that Crown Gate was able to spy against Trump. And it was just part of the way that it happens. But here's what I'm about to say, folks. And get this. Get this and get it very, very clear. Why does it not matter that we have our entire Senate, all their aides, the SCIF, their secret information, the House, all their aides, all their secret information, the entire Democratic National Committee, John Podesta, Hillary Clinton, the entire Secretary of State, and by the way, I was correct, I named it. I named there would be at least 400 instances of criminal activity by receiving messages from Hillary's BlackBerry. Didn't I say that? It's over 600. Now, the point here is very simple. The only crime really committed was when Hillary took her BlackBerry into a foreign nation and used it, and it was intercepted. We know for a fact, because it was testified by Pagliano, and this is at first, and this reason he never came back. Hillary and Huma and her staff all had their BlackBerries synced to their computers, which means all they had to do was walk by their computer, and it took whatever information they had and sent it there. And by the way, when it did that, it was completely open, no encryption. Anyone could have received it. Any Stingray could have received that.
It's like sitting in a Starbucks with an open Wi-Fi.
Correct. You couldn't be any stupider. And they look at TV, okay? What they're showing you on TV, the technology of cyber attacking, that's 20 years behind. Now, here's the point, folks. Why does it not matter that these people doesn't matter, hacked, leaked? The only leaking part is the part we just told you, that Soros controlled the election. But he controlled it somewhat legally through non-government organizations, super PACs, and telling the DNC what to do. Why doesn't it matter? Why doesn't anybody stop when they found out Israel had complete surveillance of everything on the Hill, Capitol Hill? What happened? They said, oh, you shouldn't do that. And then they found out just very shortly after that, they had a new system that did it. And so they didn't really care. And did they attack or say anything about the new system? And that's the reason they gave up the old system. So they always give up the old system and say, oh, yeah, we did that. They give up the old system when the new system's in. Here's why, folks. And get ready, because the truth, when it hits you, is like a Mack truck. Who cares what they're intercepting? It's all lies. Who cares what they're intercepting? It's all lies. So if you are Ukraine or you're Israel or you're Pakistan, you don't really care what is going on the Capitol Hill. That's not who's going to drop the bombs. The president is. And you don't care what goes on there because you've already paid your lobbyists to tell them what to do. Those systems of surveillance are to make sure that the senators and the representatives who are paid by these foreign countries do their job. That is the only thing that surveillance was there for. That is the reason Imran Awan was not prosecuted.
So again, it creeps in. At first is information, easy way to access information. Then it becomes you're giving out intelligence. Then it becomes surveillance, and it becomes control. And see, when you describe that, it walks me back in my mind all the way back to this Burroughs Wellcome meeting where fake news and intelligence business started and originated, the modern version of it.
For instance, an admiral's come out against Trump now. Okay, do one speck of homework, folks, before you believe the headline. First off, the headline's a lie. Second off, read in the article and they will tell you the truth. The last thing they're going to tell you, or the second, third, last thing they're going to tell you, is the truth. That admiral conducted the attack against Osama bin Laden, which was 100% fake. He is the imbecile that the whole world criticized for burying Osama bin Laden at sea, which is against every Muslim principle, and he said he did it for Muslim principles. This man should be taken out and considered a traitor.
He's on the enemy team, and the word you said there that you ran through so quickly is fake. The Osama bin Laden thing was fake.
100% fake. How come most of the people who conducted it are dead? How come most of them were pulled onto were all put onto a Chinook helicopter? You don't put a whole... I'm sorry. The military doesn't do that. And then they were shot out of the air. And it was literally, look into it, folks, friendly fire. So why were the people who supposedly killed Osama bin Laden dead from friendly fire, except for the one man who claims he shot Osama bin Laden? And he's a friggin' nutcase. He's been out in the news and he's a complete nutcase. So this admiral comes out and he wants to defame Trump? Oh my gosh, don't get me upset. When I see this kind of stuff, if people would simply, this isn't discernment, folks. This is doing the tiniest speck of homework, and you would find these people are frauds. I don't confront them because I know who some of them are. They are worse than confronting the CIA itself. These are rogue CIA people.
They're nuts.
They will come to your house.
Yeah, they're nuts. Look, this is why the 2020 election is so important for everyone in the world, really, because we have got to clean up D.C. and we have got to get these people in prison, and we need to do a massive sweep. Trump needs to know that the people of America stand behind him. So please, if there is a rally in your area, go and meet your people. Enjoy the enthusiasm and the patriotism that you'll find. If you get inside or out, it doesn't matter, because when you show up and pictures are taken, those pictures get out all over the world. And we bring hope to the rest of the world that Americans do care about cleaning up the corruption in our country.
Who was George H.W. Bush's best friend? Adnan Khashoggi, the biggest weapons dealer on the face of the earth. He joined Barrick Gold, which supposedly has gold. They don't. They only have paper gold. It's a complete fraud.
Barrick Gold.
Barrick, B-A-R-R-I-C-K.
Yeah.
Okay? And then remember, Bill Clinton joined with Frank Giustra and his fake gold company. So it was oil and gold, and now it's cyber information. It's not weapons, folks.
And it's intellectual property, too. They see that as a resource. They just outright steal patents.
Absolutely. And what are the best patents of all? Weapons. Anything that can be weaponized, that's the most going to make you the most money. Now, who is the number one arms dealer on the face of the earth? That would be NATO. And what is the voice of NATO? The Atlantic Council. So when you say Alexandra Chalupa in the DNC, you're saying the anti-Russian warmongers who know that Russia is not our enemy. It's all fake. It's for weapons. It's for weapons. It's for weapons. And who's the number one anti-weapon group in the world? The United Nations. Obama already signed the Small Arms Treaty, which said it would take away even your pistols, as well as your, what they call them, long guns, your rifles, from you. And the Strong Cities Initiative was supposed to help that. Jade Helm was the experiment to begin to do that. All the false flags were the preparation for that. So when you see these inexplainable, absolute crazy false flags, they are But you don't see them happening now because Trump is not going to steal your guns. Because Obama signed 5 UN treaties, which he shouldn't have, and were never ratified, but he went ahead and acted on them in this country in a number of their cases. He is the biggest arms dealer on the face of the earth. He depleted our arms. He gave everybody else arms, and he tried to take away American arms. That is the worst treason that I know of in human history.